Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad and grateful to have you here. Click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content that you're hearing today. And remember, the Wake Up America show streams live Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So set your calendars to fun and join us 5 days a week for the most fun you can have, talking about freedom in the mornings. All right. Speaking of freedom and the Second Amendment, yeah, I know you guys are all still cringing from that clip that I played of Gretchen Carlson earlier, where she's like, essentially more guns equal more crime. I don't think so. But even if it did, still not going to surrender my Second Amendment rights. And more people seem to agree. This article I'm reading this morning, a Georgia gun store is saying that more Jewish Americans are buying guns amid the Israel-Hamas war. Probably not a bad idea. Rampant anti-Semitism on the march. Attacks have been stepping up around the world, including here in the United States. Thank God for the Second Amendment. Joining us now to discuss the Second Amendment, and maybe a little about God, is Tzvi Waldman. He's joining us live right now. He's the founder of the New York State Jewish Gun Club. Good morning, Tzvi.
Hi, good morning, and thanks for having me, Austin.
Sure. Thank you very much for joining us, Tzvi. Your reaction to seeing more Jewish Americans buying guns?
Look, people saw the images coming out of Israel. You know, we grew up seeing these type of images in history books and in museums. Unfortunately, it's now on our Twitter feeds, it's on Instagram feeds. People need to feel safe. Thank God for America. Thank God for a country where the right to bear arms is in our Constitution and it's protected by our Constitution.
So, Tzvi, when you see these things happening around the country and you see people being attacked on college campuses, the violent threats, you saw that article that I sent you yesterday about the Cornell student who was arrested
Yep.
for making terroristic threats. I mean, is that making the case? Are you seeing more people in the Jewish community maybe starting to thaw a little bit on their gun rights?
I have seen people that I would never imagine to own guns are coming forward now and owning guns. People living in Manhattan, people who are in the, I would say, not conservative, minded, people who are probably voting Democrat. I see those people even changing their minds. So people are having a rude awakening and they're coming to realize what the Second Amendment is for.
Tzvi, there's been a lot of conflict about the Jewish position when it comes to firearms over the years. I saw that a Jewish Democrat by the name of Mayim Bialik, she's a Hollywood actress, was talking about the other day. She says that she didn't think that this is what decolonization would look like. She's been shocked by the amount of rage and hatred and violence that's been directed at the Jewish people since this October 7th attack. Do you think it's reasonable to assume that more Jewish Democrats might be starting to feel the same way?
Look, when things are tough, right? When times are hard, the true colors show, right? If you want to know who your true friends are, you wait till you are in crisis and you see who comes to help you, right? And I think this event shows it. It brings out, it's when the system is stressed, everyone is upset, emotional. Look then who sticks around to be next to you, who helps you. And I think, what has plays out, kind of brings out that point. And and yes, people are realizing that when it comes to hatred, it doesn't really matter where on the spectrum you are in religious in belief and in your Jewishness. People who hate us will hate us no matter if we are all the way in the left side spectrum politically or we are all the way on the right. And the bright side of all of this, it's uniting the Jewish community in a way we have never seen before.
Now, Zvi, when you look at the what's happening on college campuses, you're seeing many Jewish millionaires and billionaires pulling their funding from these college campuses. They've been funding this left-wing activism for a number of years, and so many of them now seem surprised that intersectional politics, which sees the world as oppressors and the oppressed, has now turned its back on the Jewish people, which you might assume would be, the oppressed. But there's a lot of confusion around this concept of the Jewish people and whether or not they're oppressors or oppressed. When I look at the, just from a pure numbers perspective, I think we're not even at pre-Holocaust levels in terms of the Jewish population in the world. I think there's 16 million people, 16 million Jewish people in the world, correct me if I'm wrong, and I think 1.9 billion Muslim people in the world. So even by the left's own definition of oppressor or oppressed, I think that they're entirely confused about who the oppressors might be. Nonetheless, the question of whether or not Jewish people, exercising their right to bear arms is a popular one. If I were to guess, Tzvi, I would guess that probably most Jews in the United States probably don't agree with you and I on these issues.
Right.
Is that a fair assessment?
It's very possible. So there's two things in general, right? When people pose me the question that there's a lot of Jewish people out there that are opposing the Second Amendment, right? I would tell them, come to my neighborhood in Rockland County, New York, and we're a very high population of Orthodox Jews, and the Second Amendment is very, very strong. Okay. Yes, there are those people that are Jewish that do not oppose the Second Amendment, but most of them are liberal leaning, right? But this event has kind of united everyone in terms of everyone feels threatened the same. A lot of people who were traditionally opposing it are now starting to think about it, or their views have shifted because they realize that at the end of the day, 911 cannot be there everywhere. 911 is not a solution. It's more like a hope and a prayer. As good as you think government is, they could fail. In a time of crisis, okay, at a time of crisis, like what happened in Israel, the system can get overwhelmed. And there's a reason why our founding fathers put that into the Second Amendment, put the Second Amendment into the Constitution.
Certainly, for sure. If our listeners are just tuning in to the Wake Up America show just now, glad to have you here. Click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content that you're hearing. I'm your host, Austin Petersen, here on the Wake Up America show, and I'm speaking to Tzvi Waldman. He is the head of the New York State Jewish Gun Club, and he's joining us this morning to talk a little bit about rising anti-Semitism in the world and why the Jewish community should consider arming themselves. Talk to us a little bit about the New York State gun laws. I mean, you've got not only the hurdle of convincing your fellow Jews now's a good time to get into, the AR-15 business, maybe buy themselves an AR-15, but can they even own one in the state of New York, I guess is the question.
So under the current law, you cannot purchase any semi-automatic without a license. So not even a Ruger 1022, Ruger PC carbine, or like a Celtic Sub 2000, a regular. The only thing you can walk in, do the standard FBI background check and walk out with is a shotgun or a lever action. I think this is ridiculous. This does not make any sense. This flies in the face of the Constitution and also in the Bruin decision that the Supreme Court ruled on last session.
For sure. And we do certainly hope that they take on more of these cases and start to push back. But the governor of New York has been a thorn in the side of gun owners and constitutionalists in the state of New York. It's certainly been frustrating to watch from afar how our friends in New York have constantly been on the defensive in taking back our gun rights. Do you think that the Supreme Court is giving you guys any hope that you might be able to push back again, or do you expect this to be a constant battle here?
Look, I'm hoping that the next time a case goes in front of the Supreme Court realizes the shtick they're playing and their tantrums they're throwing, and they'll put in strong wording into their briefs to make it clear once and for all that the Second Amendment is just like the First Amendment. I don't need to have a license before I post on Facebook or on X. I don't have any limits how many posts I can do a day. I can speak freely. I should be able to protect myself freely without any government intervention.
Tzvi, I'm not Jewish. My wife is. So as a Gentile, I do frequently have conversations with the Jewish community through her connections. And many of them are liberal Democrats, and a lot of them, their eyes raise, and they kind of give me a look when they find out about how many guns I have and how much I love them. What are some good arguments that a Gentile might be able to use, or like just at least some good debate points to bring up with the Jewish community and help to convince them and why they should arm themselves and defend themselves and take advantage of their rights?
Look at other countries that has gone from confiscation, where they ended up, the amount of oppression those governments end up doing. It just look up Mao. I mean, in China, I can bet you there's a bunch of people working in the factories over there sweating away that would love to have Second Amendment, would love to have the right to stand up. It's an important aspect. Again, to make it clear, it's not that the Constitution grants it to us. The Constitution protects it. It's a God-given right. Every person has the ability to live freely, to feel safe, and to feel that they do not have to rely on the government for their self-protection. Everyone is empowered to protect themselves, and that's an incredible feeling that unfortunately the New York governor and the New York political system is denying from people.
Tzvi, it's great to talk to you. You're the head of the New York State Jewish Gun Club. You're trying to convince more Jews to get involved in taking advantage of their rights here in the United States, and we certainly wish you well along those lines. We do believe in the Second Amendment here in the United States, that all people should exercise their rights, and seeing people like yourself making inroads in that community is definitely heartening to see. Can you tell people a little bit more about your work with the New York State Jewish Gun Club, and maybe share with us a little bit about what you're trying to accomplish there with the group?
Yeah, so it was around 2017 after the shooting at Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue. When I wanted to start learning, to become better with my pistol, I started going to the range, and I realized most of the classes were not on the Sabbath. As an observant Jew, I cannot take those classes. So every time I went to the range, I saw someone in my community. I wrote down their name on a piece of paper, started making a list. When I had enough, names, I called the instructor. We started arranging private classes. Now, after a while, we decided just let's put everyone on this one social media group, and we called it gun training. And then after a while, we gave an official name, and it grew. We created a logo, we created a website, and now we have probably close to 700 members. We help people with firearms. People call us all the time, like, "Hey, I'm new. Where do I start?" We give them the paperwork. We guide them through the application process, and then we arrange constantly different types of classes for different levels. And I work people all the way up to having the ability to be armed in a synagogue and learn all the tactics they need to be able to be part of a security team. And I'm just out there to create a healthy and a fun, exciting, like Jewish gun culture that people feel welcome, they can relate to. And yeah, it's been an incredible journey of meeting people from all over the spectrum of of Jews, as independent as like singular people think we are, we still vary in our opinions, in our culture. And yeah, it's been a uniting force in our community.
You love to see it. One last question here for you, Tzvi, and then I'll let you go. Forgive my ignorance here, but if you are attacked on Shabbos, what are the rules around using a gun if you are attacked on Shabbos?
In general, in Jewish law, the most important thing is saving someone's life. Even if someone is hurt or he has the ability of losing or any of his limbs getting hurt, you're allowed to violate all the rules to save the person. And obviously, if someone is under attack and his life is about to be lost, you are allowed to, and your courage to do whatever you can to save people's lives. It's the same as treating someone with a heart attack. Stopping an active shooter is the same. You're allowed to violate laws. You are condemned, and it's considered a mitzvah to save someone's life. Life is the most important thing in the Jewish culture, and it's saving anyone's life is important.
There you go, mitzvah. I love that word. Tzvi Waldman, where can people find out more about your work online or perhaps get involved with your group?
NYS Jewish Gun Club.com.
There you go. Tzvi Waldman, thank you very much for your time and being so generous with it and joining us this morning. Good luck. We wish you the best.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. That was Tzvi Waldman. What'd you think? Send us a text at 573-319-1586.